Alright, I'm going to show you those last two examples that we didn't get to in class. Remember, the first step is to switch f of x and turn it into y. So I have y equals 3x minus 5. Most important key step is to switch x and y. So now we have x equals 3y minus 5. And then we're going to solve for y. So switch x and y and then solve for y. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So that gives me x plus 5 equals 3y. And then I'm going to divide by 3 everywhere. So it gives me x plus 5 over 3, which I can't do anything with, equals y. So our last step is to write it in the notation we're supposed to write it in, which is the f inverse notation. So the y, because the f inverse of x equals x plus 5 over 3. So this new function is the inverse of our original function. Those two functions would undo each other. And that's something we'll talk about more later, what they do. So maybe you can shortcut this a little bit so that you do step 1 and step 2 together. So in my mind, I'm going to say, okay, f of x is now y, and I also need to switch x and y. So that means my whole left side becomes just x equals, and here we have 7. Now instead of saying x, we're going to say y, and then plus 3 halves. So there's that, and now we're going to solve for y. So I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3 halves from both sides. And that gives me x minus 3 halves equals 7y. And now we want to divide. Let me push this off to the side. So x minus 3 halves equals 7y. So now we want to divide by 7. So as we do this, of course, x divided by 7 is just x over 7. How do we deal with 3 halves divided by 7? So something you need to remember is that when you're dividing things like fractions, if I want to take 1/2 and divide it by 3/4, is that we just multiply by the reciprocal instead. So 1/2 times 4/3 would be the same thing. We know how to do that. Well, it's actually a pretty similar problem here. If we want to take 3 halves and divide it by 7, we actually write that as 3 halves times 1/7, which we know how to do because that's 3 over 14. So this is going to give me minus 3 over 14 equals y. So as I go to flip this around, I'm going to put the f inverse of x equals x over 7 minus 3 over 14. So a little fun with fractions there. Okay, so there is that part of the notes.